Hi folks, in this video we're going to use a bunch of different tools in Scratch to create a little guessing game. So just like before, we're going to create a new project. This time I'm going to call it Guessing Game, and we're going to start off with the usual when the green flag is clicked, but this time what we're going to do is click on the sensing section and we're going to ask the user, what's your name? And that's it. So this is our start. We're going to hit the green flag. And you can see that right down here at the bottom, a little text box popped up. The cat is asking, what's my name? And I can type in anything I want. Click the checkbox, and the text box goes away. So you might be asking yourself, well, what's the point in that? Where does it go when I type text in there? And where it goes is in this little block here called answer. That is called a variable, and that is just like a box. It can store anything that the user types in. So we can use that later on in our program. So let's say hello for 2 seconds, but instead of saying hello, let's also say whatever the user typed in. So let's try it and see what happens. It's going to ask me what my name is. I'm going to type in Mr. Bartus, and I'm going to hit the checkbox. Hello, Mr. Bartus. So you can see that what was in the answer variable was used in the command to say Mr. Bartus for 2 seconds. So what we're going to try and do is create a guessing game where we pick a number, and if the user can guess what that number is, we'll say you win. If they don't guess what it is, we'll say you lose. So how are we going to do that? First, let's change the ask block to say, what number am I thinking of? And wait. So now the user is going to type in a number, and whatever they type in is going to be stored in my answer variable. So I'm going to need that at some point. If you remember back in Control, there were a few if-else statements. That's what we're going to use to check our answer. We're going to say if, but we can't just stick answer in there. That doesn't make sense. We want to say if the answer equals the number we're thinking of, then say you win. So in the operators, we got to find the equals sign. There it is. So if the answer equals, let's pick the number 7. Then we'll say you won. If they didn't pick the number 7, then it'll go into the else part. And we'll say you lose. So let's try and run this program. Click the green arrow. It says, what number am I thinking of? If I type in 7 and the check mark, this says I won. If I run it again and I type in something that's not 7, it says you lose. So that's how you can use this variable answer in your program. And the answer comes from whatever the user typed in. The last thing we're going to do is create our own variables. I want you to look at the program I just created. The first thing it does after the green flag is clicked is asks, what is your first name? And the user types it in. It says, what is your last name? And the user types it in. Then it says hello and says whatever their answer was for 2 seconds. Now, a variable can only store one thing at a time, so I want you to think about what is going to happen when I press the green flag. What is my first name? What is my last name? It's going to say, hello, Bartus. What happened to my first name? Once I typed in what is your last name, it replaced whatever was in the answer with my new answer. A variable can only hold one thing at a time. So what we're going to need to do is click on the data section and create our own variables to store the first name and the last name. So we're going to start a variable called first name, and we're going to create a variable called last name. So the first time I ask, what is your first name, I need to set the first name to whatever their answer is. And when I ask, what is your last name, I need to set last name to whatever their answer is. Now I have two new variables that store whatever they typed in into the first name variable, and then whatever they typed in gets stored into last name variable. So now I can use those variables to say, hello, first name, and last name. So let's try this program and see what happens. What is my first name? John. What is my last name? Bartus. Hello, John Bartus. So now it does exactly what we expect to do because we stored the answer to the question in our own variables. And now you should have enough information to complete this challenge.